So I've been playing Beatdown Fists of Vengeance. So, this is basically what the mid-2000s look like. Now, you might be like, "Nah, mate, I'm from the UK and it was all just a bunch of twinky white dudes with bowl cut hair." Yeah, you would be a fucking liar. Video games, okay, and pop culture do not lie. Just look at GTA, Saints Row, and whatever the fuck this game is, or all of these music videos and tell me that 2005 did not, in fact, look like this, you piece of shit. Especially if you're looking at it from an office in Japan. I mean, clearly this man was up to some hardcore gangsta shit. Capcom knew what was up, is what I'm saying. And so they totally ripped off Sega's Yakuza series, which, being about crime, is obviously just a Japanese GTA, you guys, and gave it an American coat of paint. Only they didn't actually knew what was up. And thus made a game about a motley crew of 5 on their way to a drug deal in their very American gangsta suits with their very American gangsta hairstyles and their very American gangsta poses, only to find out that they've been set up by their American gangsta family, forcing the one you chose to play as to take revenge through running around a small town, stepping onto stray needles, and going shopping a whole bunch. It's not open world in the same way that GTA is, but more open district in the way that, say, Kenka Buncho be. If you look at this wee muddy map right here, you can see how shit's chopped up into tiny little sub-hubs. There's a harbor bit, a park bit, an industrial bit, a shopping bit, and a flamey barrel bit just for the kids.
Cool!
It's not exactly big at all, as I had pretty much explored the whole thing by the first hour, but it is densely rich with detail with some people you can talk to. And there's also a handful of enterable buildings and, well, you know, random encounters and stuff that totally follow the American gangsta code of honor, meaning that weapons and firearms will be frowned upon, thus essentially making this a beat-em-up first and foremost. You got your fight mans on the square and triangles, your guard mans on the X's, your grab mans on the R1s, and even a cheeky little lock-on initiated through being close enough to smell their musky husk. You can pick up some weaponry though, like bats, crowbars, and traffic cones, and you can even eat a wee bit of chicken and knock down some medicine or beer to boost health or make you violently ill. It's a weird fucking game with weird fucking details in places where it didn't need them, and a complete lack of polish in the areas where it probably did. And yet, somehow, it kind of works. I mean, you got this big-dicking combo list with a plethora of moves that you will never do. All characters will also have their own unique fighting styles too, and it even has some RPG elements in that you get EXP from the slappy boys with which you level up, allowing you to disperse a total of 3 points at the various attributes. All of this is neat, but then, shit's also about as floaty as the fucking Hindenburg. Don't get me wrong, hits connect good, giving off satisfying shudders paired with beefy meaty sound effects, and ransacking dudes for cash after battle is also pretty satisfying in its own way. But Beatdown Fists of Vengeance is pretty far up on the Tekken 4 and Tobal spectrum with the smooth but the stupendously slow game feel. Kinda like one sensually slipping and sliding thine way through these buttery button presses on your way to the hits actually landing. Being that you can't actually cancel out of animations, resulting in a lot of situations where you can see an attack coming from miles away, hit the button to block or dodge or counter, only to have none of it happen as you were still mid-kick. Which is great during the boss fights, or really any enemies wielding a 2-hit kill death knife. Also, boss fights and important dude battles will be framed like a fighter for some reason. It's weird. Control-wise, shit won't really change much during these at all, other than that there will be a flamey bar that can be brought down through ass kickage and taunts. If barred down, you can end fights prematurely by grabbing them, granting you several options, like shaking these crackers for ice, getting some info out of them for quests, and being able to recruit them to be your bitch. See, another weird thing is that Fists of Vengeance has a party system. Friends, and I use that word weirdly, made along the way can be rung up on phones so you can tell them to follow you around, badly beating up dudes during normal fights and doubling as a type of continue during the one-on-ones. Though, dying in general doesn't really mean anything. 9 out of 10 times you get to try again and respawn right there on the spot, and 1 time out of 10 you get to beg for your life, sending you to the hospital and potentially giving you PTSD. I'm not even joking. This game has a mental health system where you can get fucked up proper, thus requiring sessions at a clinic, or for you to rocky your way up to the top and get some fists of vengeance besting your fears, which really is a great representation of PTSD truly. As stated, you can also get drunk or high off your ass, resulting in Vaseline screen, and in case of girl, you can also get your ass harassed sexually. But by far the most interesting thing, and also easily my biggest reason as to why I end up adoring this dumb piece of fucking shit, is that its main mechanic revolves around fashion. So, you know how in GTA they have the star system, right? Where the amount of stars as seen on screen indicate how mad the popo be? Well, fisting beatdown kinda has that too, as shown by these 2 percentages. Skulton means gang hate and badge means cop hate. If gang high enough, you'll start getting random encounters, and if cops high enough, you'll need to start avoiding them, and in case of 100, even suffer police drive-bys and shit. Of course, in either case, you can just beat the fuck out of them, but cops can arrest you, putting you in jail where you either need to bail or somehow best the Metal Gear series by actually physically smashing through a solid concrete wall with your bare-ass fists. It's fine, don't question it. Anyway, in a move that I can only describe as Japan, the way that you keep these boyos down is by making them forget you through playing dress-up. And I love this. Sure, the game looks like the visual approximation of a used fucking syringe in a back alley parking lot, nor do the models and texture look any better than your average PSP game, but its clothing game is on fucking point. You can cosplay as Claire Redfield, become a proper Tekken mob boss Batman, look like a late 90s music video, and even become the proud lesbian Amazon warrior you were always destined to be. Obviously, you can also be a giant black man in a tutu, but the style overtakes the memes big time. And the fact that you have to do this is actually great, as it gives a bit of purpose to the slightly repetitive grind the game lulls you into, as money is never in high supply, and these stores stock up like crazy. You can get tats, haircuts, piercings, jewelry, and even fucking cosmetic surgery, but to get the dosh needed to do so will require some high quality ass beating of stray boys. Though, then that'll also bump up your crime meters again, would it? Making the actual go-to activity to go do some odd jobs. These aren't really minigames per se, nor are they actually Yakuza tier either. It always boils down to talk to the person, then take the person to beat up the person with the person. But given the amount of money that you get from these, I'd say that it's worth doing 1 or 2 every other hour or so, which is kinda how I imagined that they wanted you to approach these as well, as yeah, playing the game any other way makes it really fucking tedious. Nice. Every time you move from one area to another, you get loading screen with map transition, followed by the area's name, followed by a black screen, followed by your character walking 2 steps, and then you get to play. Given how tiny this place is and how much walking around you actually need to do, this will get fucked. As the entire game is kinda one big fetch quest, really. All main story missions always boil down to find these 4 guys and interrogate, beat them to get the info, and then you go to the info place where there's a boss, the end. And of course, all 4 of these people will be in their own area, and of course, when you call your buds to tag along, they'll tell you where to meet them, which you will also need to do every mission, seeing that they leave at the end of each one, but then you might also take a pill to regain some health only to get sick, requiring an additional hospital visit, but then crime too high, so constant fights on the way there, so also needing new clothing, but no cash cause you just hospital, so need side mission, but random battles, and just... I often got stuck in these never-ending loops of tedium, turning these loading screens into a fucking insult, all the while also being treated to these genuinely brilliant but also only 5 songs for the entire game, with very little story happening during, as that shit's saved for the chapter transitions. And Again, the core gameplay here, while jerky and cheap, is quite a lot of fun for what it is. It's just that what it is essentially a simple series Yakuza 1 without the story, the epic side quests and the heat moves, and maybe like 5 hours of actual content spread out over 10. Though the story is honestly much better, let's be real here. All characters are boring and have no personality other than whatever trope their designs might imply, but then we do also look really cool and also voice acting.
You're even stupider than I thought. How could you walk into so obvious a trap? Blinded by rage, eh? You must really be angry to have made such a mistake.
I love this sort of fucking schlock tone, man. It's great. And so, I can only be led to one conclusion, which is that this is one mysterious Jogo. And a mostly kind of fun one at that. Not a masterpiece, that's for fucking sure, as it's clearly too low-budge, jank, dumb, and repetitive to be, but it has this innocent sense of silly joy about it that just puts a smile on my face regardless. The soundtrack, for one, is Fresh Prince as fuck, serving as the perfect encapsulation of what middle-aged Japanese men think hip-hop sounds like. And while the combat is awkward, it is also beefy enough to be fun whenever shit works. Really, its biggest flaw is its length. The many characters thing is cool, with all of them having their own fighting styles and all, and even offering a few different story moments here and there, but mostly shit'll just stay the same, which goes for everything else too. It's fun, but the funness doesn't really increase over time. If anything, it only decreases due to how samey the whole thing remains, which is bad considering that it overstays its welcome by a good 5 hours. Though I suppose that if I had owned this as a kid, then I would have probably loved playing it over and over, seeing what might change, which it technically does allow for, so that's cool at least. Also, I know that the American gangsta jokes were kind of misplaced, as your dudes are clearly referred to as mobsters, but like, no one cares, first of all. And second of all, I don't recall the Italian mafia being this racially diverse and inclusive. So shit's weird and funny looking either way, which is why I brought it up in the first place, as the entire thing is just such a visual clusterfuck. No one dresses this way. There's more white people with dreads here than even Scandinavia can handle, and basically everyone looks like a crossover between a pimp and one of those punks from Midgar, which I guess kind of fits given that the game is post-apocalyptic after all.
Las Sombras. For decades, this city was a war zone.
Uh-huh. Sure, it's not like it's not ever brought up again, nor does it really even look like it is, and I mean, sure, it's proper ghetto, but so are many places IRL, and those don't necessarily contain any wars either. Though, I guess it is a common trope in beat-em-ups in general, so I kinda can't help but loving it either way. Basically, it's dumb in all the right ways. I'm feeling a light 6 to a strong 7 on this one. ThorHighheels, beat down Fists of Vengeance, forever. Tran.